managing and protecting the world's grueling number of endpoints, enabling Tanium's customers to see, control, and protect every endpoint everywhere. Tanium's mission is to provide certainty in uncertain times with the industry's only converged endpoint management. Trusted by the U.S. military and the majority of the Fortune 100, Tanium helps manage and protect nearly 30 million endpoints. Tanium, the power of certainty. Visit securityweekly.com/Tanium to learn more.
Attacks can't be prevented, but they can be stopped. Modern cyber attackers have already made it inside your network, but you have the upper hand. Find and eradicate threats with ExtraHop network detection and response, and shut them out before real damage is done. Learn the advanced techniques attackers are using and how ExtraHop stops them with a live attack simulation. Register at securityweekly.com/ExtraHop. That's extra HOP.
Welcome back to Enterprise Security Weekly. Do you have a specific guest or topic that you want us to cover in one of the shows? Submit your suggestions for guests by visiting securityweekly.com/guests and completing the form. We review suggestions monthly and we'll reach out to you once reviewed. And you can't really suggest topics on there. We say guests and topics, but you can always hit us up on Twitter or on the Discord or anything like that and suggest a topic. All right, now for the Enterprise Security Weekly news. You can go to securityweekly.com/ESW289 if you want to check out the news we're reading from today. I've got comments on most of them today. I didn't quite get through all of them, but something I've been trying to get through is at least the fundings, because a lot of these are new companies, and I want to at least know what category these companies are in so we can kind of see those trends. The first item here is I hadn't looked at unicorns in a while, and I was not shocked to go back and find that we don't have any new ones. We all knew there was stuff going on with the market, and slight downturn in the market, little bit less VC activity, but no new unicorns. Nobody's getting unicorn status at this point.
I think an interesting research project here, Adrian, would be to go. Oh, go ahead, Katie. You jump.
I will also note that clicking on this link, I was given a warning to say you are about to go to an unsafe domain. So just, human element.
Oh, that's weird. It does that for me too.
Yeah, we both clicked on it. So, pot, kettle black.
Yeah, there's a problem with the certificate is not valid.
Just accept it. That's what I did.
Well, yes, of course, but pot, kettle black. Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, they got something wrong with their certs, it looks like, at CB Insights on this particular landing page.
It did not do that on my other computer. So if you search CB Insights, unicorns, so you can just search that and it'll pull it up. And now let me click it. And it doesn't give me an error, and I have no warning. Connection is secure. Certificate is valid, and it's cbinsights.com. So why does it break coming from our website?
Instapage.cbinsights.com, don't know. Maybe this is something.
Is it Instapage? Yeah, why is Instapage on the front of that? So so we use Instapage to pull together our stories. So it's interesting that it didn't do that for any of the other links. I don't know why it threw Instapage on there as a C name. That's really weird. And it's weird that it even worked.
Well,
that the page even comes up with Instapage on there.
Well, I accepted it, so hopefully you didn't hack me, Adrian.
Or Instapaper is the name of the tool.
So, Adrian, I think your research about the number of newly added is interesting, but I think we've long passed the point of caring about newly added, and we should be focusing on decreased. The problem is that nobody reports when they're now officially below 1 billion, right? Once they were at 1 billion and kind of, I would love to know the number that if they were revalued properly today, that we would see a literal field of massacred unicorns.
You think so? Yeah, I mean, we talked about that before, because the public, some of the public drops in valuations gave us a figure, and I want to say it was like you divide everything by 12, like it was a pretty big factor, or 20 or something like that. And when we did that, I think we were down to like only 3 unicorns if we took the public SaaS companies as a model.
Yeah, Bank of America puts out a very interesting report. I think weekly I get it from them. They do a cybersecurity cut of public comps of cybersecurity companies and then public comps of SaaS software companies, and you can see the depression that's happened this year. And pretty much across the board, we've gone from like 50x valuations down to 11x valuations. So you can almost say anywhere from 50 to 80% compression in valuations across the board. Now, it happens at different layers, right? Public is not necessarily early stage, right? That's very, very different. But if you go raise at $1 billion and you don't have the revenue to support $1 billion raise, you have to catch that before you run out of money. And so I think you'll see more and more as acquisitions occur, we'll start to see the unicorn death club climbing, right? So random company, I know nothing about them, Chronosphere. I'm just happen to be looking on the page here. $1 billion valuation, Greylock Partners, last raise 10/7/2021. So they're going to be bumping up against a year into that raise. In the next 10 months, did they get to $1 billion in valuation, like a true billion in the current way of rating it? If not, they'll either sell that company at 400, 500, 800, whatever percentage they got to, or they'll raise a down round. And when that happens, I think finding a way to track the unicorn death pool is going to be an interesting future research project.
Is there any kind of
Hey, Dad,
is there any kind of standard where you can say go? Go.
I heard Adrian. He said, "Hey, Dad, how was your job today? I just sat around and talked about dead unicorns." And I think I've mentioned this on the show before. I actually had a website called the Unicorn Death Pool back in, I don't even remember when it was. Maybe it was in the .com era or 2008 era. It might have been 2008, where when everything was crazy valued, you was basically a fantasy football style betting game. You picked your team of unicorns you thought that were going to go below 1 billion in valuation, and you got points for every dollar below $1 billion.
Wow.
Looking at the market and, where we are and, inflation, interest rates, blah, blah, blah. Is there a way, Tyler, to calculate an average decline in valuations of companies?
Yeah, and there's a lot of data out there that supports that. So if you look at the work done by, I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know if it's Thomas or Tomas Tungus from Redpoint. He does a lot of great blog posts about this topic. Basically, he does a lot of research, and then you can use Bank of America comps and things like that. But looking at funding data and trying to reverse engineer a lot of it, you can get to the downturn by raise level, meaning like Series D plus is seeing this level of compression, Series C plus or Series C is seeing this level of compression, and it's modeled. It's not exact, right? It's estimated and modeled, but the earlier stages are not seeing the compression nearly as bad as the later stages, just because it's closer to the public comps.
Right, and of course there are variables. Has this company actually grown their sales or not? And if they're not a public company, you can't take that into account necessarily. But it would be interesting, to see some sort of data model on what's happened to the industry as a whole. Has it gone down by, 10%, 13%, 72%, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I'm sure Thomas has that information, and I'll go look at his website and see if I can tease it out. I'm actually seeing it in deals that I see at the pre-seed, seed, and A stages for sure. What used to be 10 to 20 million are being compressed into like 7 to 12, right? We're starting to see some rapid compression in some of those levels too. So it's trickled all the way down.
It's interesting looking at some of these. Like I'm looking at Lookout, Lookout has the oldest date on this unicorn list. Their $1 billion valuation is from 2013. And I'm looking at their last series round was Series F in, when was this? Oh, that was 2014. They had a pre-money valuation of $850 million with this $150 million from T. Rowe Price.
That's the billion right there.
And then they had, it's all been secondary market, which I don't know what that means. So we don't have any valuations after that, but they're still private. But they haven't raised a VC round since 2014.
Secondary market is basically insiders that are holding shares primary means you're creating new shares to issue and release for investment. Secondary market or secondary shares or secondary issuances is taking shares that people already hold, like senior founders, senior executives, people with large chunks, and selling those shares off to get liquidity. So that's the primary difference. So if they haven't taken any primary money in since 2013, 2014, that's their $1 billion valuation. Everything after that is completely up to what people were willing to pay for it in that moment.
And this is why we need you here, Tyler. This is the moment. The moments like these, because I have no idea what
today I learned. There.
But they, when they got that $1 billion valuation, they had like 250, 300 people. They've got almost 1,000 now, according to LinkedIn here. So I imagine, I don't even know if they need to go public. They seem like they must be self-sufficient at this point to not be actively raising or like seeking an IPO or anything like that. But yeah, I don't know. Unless there's down rounds, we're just not going to know, right?
Yeah, you're never going to really know until they're priced in a way that has to be disclosed, and or the word leaks out after some kind of down round or some kind of secondaries can also price down below $1 billion, right? Like let's say you got your $1 billion valuation in January of this year, and you end up taking a secondary because somebody needs some money or somebody wants liquidity. That could price below, right? Today, for example, it could price as much as 50 to 80% below valuation. So, just because you're a unicorn today doesn't mean you're just not a normal horse tomorrow.
Yep. A normal horse. You get your horn gets revoked. We need that horn back.
No longer rainbows coming out the backside. It's all gone.
Wait a minute. Is it a horse with a horn, or is it just a skinny rhinoceros?
A skinny rhino. I love that cartoon of the rhinoceros running on a treadmill, looking at a poster of a unicorn. You ever seen that? It's great. All right. Speaking of raises, Fortanix is we've got two Series C's here. $90 million from Fortanix, which seems kind of niche. Does mostly data encryption, mostly for highly regulated companies. It looks like $90 million Series C there. Not sure how that market is doing. The really complex encryption and key management type stuff, HSMs, to protect financial data, healthcare data, that kind of thing. Very, very complex products to use. And dangerous. you got to make sure you know what you're doing when you're encrypting stuff. The next one's Cyrebro. I'm pretty sure they're going for a Professor X-Men reference here, because the idea is it's a SOC, and the SOC sees everything that goes on because they get logs and monitoring and visibility and stuff like that. So I see what you're trying to do there, Cyrebro branding chooser founder, whoever chose that. $40 million Series C, led by Koch Disruptive Technologies, which I assume is the Koch brothers. And I think I'm saying that right. I think I'm seeing and saying that right. Yeah. And I think this is interesting because we've seen a couple of these where it looks like there's now an industry for software security companies to just make software for MSSPs. So it used to be MSSPs, if they didn't have the engineering team or, didn't want to build their own software product in-house, they would get something like Alien Vault and make it work for them. And Alien Vault used to be the big, they kind of leaned into that and made their product specifically for MSSPs. Now it's like a whole market. I've seen at least half a dozen companies that just cater to the MSSPs because there's so many MSSPs now.
Yeah, so it's definitely an interesting play because I think you're bringing up the interesting point is that a lot of the cybersecurity companies that we see today they all target the enterprise because that's where the big bucks are, the 100K deals, the 200s, the 500s, even the $1 million deals. So it's harder for them to go down market. And I've seen a lot of younger startups attempt to start down market, like SMB mid-market targeting. And it's very difficult for that to take off because they're not, in general, the smaller the company is, in general, the less security mature they tend to be, which gets them closer to requiring full automation and closer to becoming MSSP dependent. And that's where you see the proliferation of the MSSPs is targeting small to mid-market companies that, they can just onboard all of them and take care of everything in a single swoop. And so we've seen a massive adoption of MSSPs throughout the world and certainly throughout the United States. And if they're building, many of them have done this and built their own technology stacks to deliver increased value. So to have something that runs it and manages it and is made specifically for MSSPs could definitely bring additional value to those vendors.
Mm-hmm. From a sales point of view, it makes perfect sense, right? Because if you're selling to a small company is sometimes much more work than selling to a bigger company because you have that smaller company without that maturity. They're scared, they're nervous, they don't know what they don't know. They ask a lot of questions. They take a lot of time. And so that kind of sale, there's so much hand-holding. Not that there's not at an enterprise level, but it's a completely different kind of sale. And I've sold both. And you can take a lot more time with the smaller company that's nervous versus a company who knows what they're evaluating. And so if you have a product tailored for MSSPs, you still get to sell to the small guys, but you do it through a mature channel, and that helps your sales velocity. Yeah,
your CAC doesn't necessarily go down, and Tyler will correct me if I'm using that term wrong, with a smaller company, right? Like your average deal size and your customer acquisition cost aren't necessarily tied to each other. So that's why you see a lot of security companies going after Fortune 500 or early stage because they don't have a huge sales team. They don't have a bunch of sales channels. So, you've got to go for the big wins. You got to swing big.
Yeah, you're talking about unit economics, Adrian. That's the unit economics where how much it costs to build and sell something and then how much you can make when you sell it, right? And those unit economics have to work. And just because you're going for smaller companies doesn't necessarily mean that your unit economics are going to get better. And many times they get worse, exactly like Adrian's identifying.
Yeah. It's the same reason why Tesla made the Roadster first and the Model 3 last. So they started with the expensive car and worked down to the less expensive.
Absolutely.
So let's see, Dig Security. We had them in the show notes last week. I don't think we talked about them, but I had time this week to dig into them a little bit and found them to be a little. Yeah, actually wasn't intended, but I'm glad you caught that. Series A by SignalFire. Never heard of SignalFire. San Francisco based, but it seemed a little. I mean, most of what you read on them sounds like a DSPM. They're not using that term. They're using a different term. They're calling it data detection and response. But when you read through how they're doing it, they're doing data discovery, then classifying it, then trying to catch data exfiltration. So pretty much exactly what we talked about with Jonathan with our interview with Flow Security earlier. So I don't know why they're not using the DSPM term, but seems like that's the space that they play in. Yeah,
it's an interesting one. I remember seeing this one when it came around for the pre-seed funding. And I don't remember why I didn't jump on it, but I didn't for whatever reason. But it's neat to see them taking an up round. That's good. They're another Israeli.
It's a good size
IDF.
Series A.
What's that?
It's a good size Series A.
Yeah. No, they're definitely making the significant progress here. And so, anyways, neat to see them growing and doing well. Maybe I passed on them and didn't even decide to dig in because it is another data security company, and I've yet to see a company that solves data security in a novel way that gets adopted rapidly. And I'm looking forward to the day that happens, because I think it's a great way to actually do security if somebody can get it working. And maybe Dig is that one company that can do it. I'm rooting for them for sure.
Yeah, it's a tough market. You know, back when I was an analyst, I always said we'll tackle data security last. Like, not that we didn't tackle it sooner, but it's not been solved, right? Like, it'll be the last thing to fall because it's really, really hard. Security Pal emerges from stealth with 21 million, and they're helping you finish filling out your SIG lights. That's what they're doing with humans, not AI, just people. Just
so you asked me about a definition of a business term earlier. Give me the definition of a SIG light.
It's just your like self-assessment questionnaires. Like when you sell to somebody and they're like, for a part of our third-party vendor management, we need you to fill out the spreadsheet. It's the spreadsheet that you have to fill out to close that sale. And what's interesting is they mention closing sales deals. So like there's definitely an enterprise play here, but it sounds like they're selling specifically to vendors doing sales, because once you get to a certain point, you end up dedicating at least one person, maybe even a team, to just answering these security questionnaires, right? So you can get these deals closed. And that's the play that they're going after.
Yeah. Complex, crowded, not a whole lot of differentiation, I'm guessing, but I don't know the space well. So,
Yep. Spreadsheet innovation. That's where we're at right now in the security market. We're innovating on spreadsheets.
Hey, that's always been. They've always said that's the best place to look to build a business. Look for something being run on spreadsheets.
Yeah. So the next one made me groan a little. Theom, I guess is how you say it. An oversubscribed, I would say very oversubscribed, $16.4 million seed round. They're talking about securing data in a way where however they're securing it travels with the data. I've heard this pitch before, and the solution ends up being onerous and hard to use and kind of a pain. So I should probably give them benefit of the doubt, but I don't. That's a huge seed round. Like, I don't know. I guess if they're actually doing something innovative, the last time I heard it was more for endpoint specific use for employees that need to share data with other people securely, which is still a tough problem to solve, and it involved sending the data to them and then telling them, hey, you have to download this client. And when you're done downloading and installing that client that will let you read the data, call me and I'll read the past, phrase to you so that you can see the spreadsheet.
No wonder you groaned.
Right? Yeah. I mean, that's what's coming to mind. And it was blanking on the name of the company, but BlackBerry acquired them back in the day.
Oh yeah, it wasn't Ignite, was it?
No, it was Docu something.
Yeah. Anyways, is this week like the funding of the data security stories? Is that what I'm seeing like as a consistent theme?
I think this year is the year of the reemergence of data security in all of its various forms.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have groaned like that into the microphone out loud.
It's been simmering for a while, right? Like we've been seeing. That's why we had the interview with Flow Security, right? Was because we've been seeing more and more of these data security companies. And the company I was thinking of was Watchdogs. Tyler.
Oh, yes, I remember that. Yep, I remember that acquisition. Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I've been saying this all along. If somebody can crack this problem, they can make an absolute fortune. It's just, it's a balance of usability. And this goes for encryption tech, too. Whenever I hear an encryption tech story, it's the same problem. It's a balance of usability and security. And if you can get that balance right, you can make an absolute ton of money. If you don't get that balance right, you either don't provide enough security and you fail, or you don't provide enough usability and you fail. And it's about hitting that pinpoint accuracy on that spectrum.
Yeah, and like Jonathan was saying earlier, people expect to see the value right away. Like, I don't understand how you build a product like this and have an implementation that doesn't take months. So yeah, we'll see. Might take a closer look at that product. Sounds interesting. The next one should almost have been our squirrel story today, because I don't really have a squirrel story. But Internet 2.0 is the name of an actual company that exists.
That's pretty brilliant.
Someone decided to name their company Internet 2.0.
From a marketing standpoint, good job.
And you know how you get to their website? What you have to type? You have to type internet2-0.com.
Oh, no, that's a marketing fail. We went very quickly from yay to eh.
Wow.
No dashes. No dashes. Dashes are
a dash
terrible.
in the domain name. That's a thing. And what really kills me is not only is Web 3.0 an active term that you see everywhere right now, referring to, metaspace or metaverse and crypto and NFTs and all that stuff. But Web 2.5 is now a thing. We actually had a story, I think last week or week before, where a company was doing identity, and basically Web 2.5 is just a way of saying, straddling Web 2.0 and 3.0. But Internet 2 is an actual thing that still exists and has existed since the 90s. It's a academic research project that has very extremely high-speed connections between large public universities. So Internet 2 is an actual thing. So you've got this whole nightmare of SEO around this name that you chose for your product. So, and apparently they do, like it's the product's firewalls. It's kind of like clean pipe as a service type thing. So like a Zscaler or Cato networks, but you actually have to deploy some kind of virtual firewall appliance or maybe even physical appliance on-prem. So pretty well-known space. And they're Australian. So, I suppose, they have military grade cyber protection all over their website. So I suppose they're going after government.
That's an instant red flag. Military grade cyber protection equals fail.
Yeah.
And so I think these investors, I think they got taken, because if you read the story, they did a $5 million seed on a $50 million valuation, which assumes somewhere, depending on whether it's pre or post money, about a 10% ownership, give or take, depending on pre or post. There is no way military grade cyber protection and a company named Internet 2.0. I don't care what they would have done. They could have been the next Wiz. I would have passed instantly with those two marketing terms.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to skip around here. We're getting on in time. There are a few acquisitions, none that really got me excited. Vista Equity is taking a stab at KnowBe4, taking them private at $24 a share. I guess KnowBe4 hasn't gone in the garbage bin, but they haven't gone to the moon either. So, I guess that's I don't know if you want to be in that spot where you start getting targeted by private equity. I guess
they're a publicly traded company. That's the problem. KnowBe4 is a publicly traded company, which means they got just absolutely bashed on valuation, which makes them a reasonable takeout opportunity. So Vista coming in and swooping them up. I want to say it's at least 25% to 30% above current value at the time of announcement, because I had a 28% bump on my shares.
They were 22 something.
I hold some of that.
They were at 22 something. When I added the story, they were at 22 something.
Yeah, that
24.
was post the 25 to 30% bump, because that announcement came out and they went up instantly by 30%.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's exactly what you do, right? You offer well above current shares. The market will naturally uptick it to just below that amount, right? Because if somebody's offering to buy the shares at that amount, you have to be much closer than you currently are. And so that's exactly why it jumped. I hope it closes, because I think KnowBe4 is a great company that does great training. It has a great platform. I think this one for Vista makes a smart, take it private, hold it for a handful of years, and then re-IPO it when the market's hot.
I'm not quite as positive on their product. I'm wondering if maybe you own some
Nope,
shares.
I do own some public shares, but that's not why. We actually, a company that I am close with actually uses it, so I've seen a lot of their training, and people actually watch their content just to watch their content. Like, content is good.
Okay.
You don't agree?
Well, I mean, they've been through a lot of scandals where their phishing training has been overly, well, and a lot of it is in how you use it. Like the story about the Chicago Tribune, where they told their employees nobody was getting bonuses, and then the phishing test that they did 2 weeks later was, hey, you're getting bonuses.
Oof. No, I didn't know that.
KnowBe4.
Yeah, so, no, I've seen like, everybody loves their what is that story? The Inside Man. If you Google or go on YouTube and look for the Inside Man, it's like a multi-series TV show for training, and that's what that I've been exposed to and was pretty impressed with. Yeah, they actually have a lot of stuff. They have a ton of products. They have like a vendor management product. They're a huge company, so they've kind of diversified and built a bunch of different things. So it's hard to throw them into a single bucket and throw them under the bus for that product. But yeah, the phishing training in general, it's not just KnowBe4, but phishing training in general, I've done a lot of reading on. There's a lot of studies that say it does more harm than good, but clearly that's not all they do. Training doesn't get lumped in with phishing training. All right. Let's see. Devo made an acquisition. CrowdStrike made a small acquisition. CrowdStrike, it looked like, was going after like an Orca or something like that. Been rumors about CrowdStrike trying to pick up all kinds of some pretty big multi-billion-dollar acquisitions, and just hasn't been able to make that land for whatever reason. So it looks like they're doing some smaller ones instead. Like, they've got some capital, they need to put it to work, I guess. And this is an external attack surface management platform. Why not? There are hundreds of them, right? Yep. Not surprised that got rolled up into CrowdStrike. It's a natural fit for them. They want to try to figure out their cloud story better and extend past their traditional EDR approach, and that makes good sense to have in the fold.
Yeah, I don't see a deal price, and I'm not surprised. There's a ton of early stage EASM vendors out there, so I'm sure they got a good amount for it, but yeah, not big enough for them to have to announce here. Not material. Let's see. So, hot take in here, before we get to the hot take, Slack is kind of moving into some new area here with what they're calling Canvas. It's coming next year. I understand it's going to be kind of like a combination of Notion and what Slack currently has. So a lot more on documentation, on kind of like maybe like an Evernote, OneNote type product, also built into Slack. So they're kind of expanding now that they're part of Salesforce. And I think they did an acquisition there, something called Quip, was it? I forget what it was called, but it was similar to Notion and Evernote and all that stuff. All right, and leadership. So a whole series of really interesting security articles coming out of Bessemer Venture Partners. I'm not sure how that works, if they have like a ex-CISO team that they've put together. But a lot of, or what do they call it at a VC? You have like a CISO. There's a term for it that I'm going to blank on.
They have like the CISO advisory boards and the CISO networks.
Yeah, like an advisory board. Yeah, yep. So good stuff from Jason Chan there, ex Netflix. Was at Netflix for 10 years, which is, I suspect, equivalent to 30 years anywhere else.
Yeah, Jason, I think, is actually an operating partner now. I could be wrong, but I think he's an operating partner at Bessemer. But I love that he wrote this article, because one of the things Jason's known for there, besides, actually creating a strong security culture and a strong security program, is being a very empathetic leader, building a team that was self-sufficient. And if you look at the people that he mentored and nurtured for his 10 years there, many of them have gone on to build massive teams at other companies, or broke free and created their own entrepreneurship ventures where they're starting their own cyber businesses. It's quite an homage to what Jason achieved there. And I think everybody who's building a cybersecurity team or program would be well served to read this article.
Yeah, huge impact as a leader. And I love that he's doing green flags. I actually asked him, hey, is a red flags version coming? He's like, nah, man, too much negativity in the world. And I love it. Like, I mean, immediately you understand what green flags means, like you understand the, comes right across, there's 6 items here. Like, I mean, you can tell he's a great leader just in how he decided to format and put together this article and share his knowledge. Yeah. Right there. That communication is awesome. So you can learn something just from how he wrote the article, if nothing else. And after that, well, speaking of the negative side, the queen of hot takes, great piece from Kelly Shortridge here. Sometimes you see a big report come out and you start reading and you're like, that when was this written? Like when your first thought is, when was this written? It's a bad sign. And that was my thought kind of going through it. And apparently I wasn't alone. And, she put together a great rebuttal. It's not too negative. It's a rebuttal. It's not there are other negative ways of describing it, but she pretty much boiled everything down to 10 main objections here. And most of it's just old school, like 10, 15 years ago, like this might have landed pretty well, but a lot of studies, a lot of science, DevOps and Agile is now a thing. It just completely missed the last 10, 15 years of progress we've made in software development and security for software development. And she breaks that down beautifully.
Yeah, it's quite the article, super long.
Yeah, and it's really just those 10 things, and so it's almost like 10 mini articles on each of those objections that she had to their guide. Yeah. So it's actually pretty easy to read. Like if there's specific ones out of the 10 you want to read, you can just skip to those, and each one kind of stands alone, so you don't have to read it beginning to end. But yeah, heard of the OWASP top 10? This is Kelly's bottom 10. And I'm just we're running long on time here. I'm just going to jump to the Whoopsie here, which is not a squirrel story. It's very relevant to security, so it's not a non sequitur like we would normally have for a squirrel story. But Oracle had, so second only to the Uber hack was this Oracle vulnerability for Oracle Cloud. Apparently, there was no access control on disks in the Oracle Cloud. So if you had a storage device in Oracle Cloud, if anybody knew the ID of that storage device, they could attach it. They could mount it. across all vendors on Oracle Cloud. All the storage was open to everyone. All you had to know was the ID for the storage device, the OCID, they call it, the Oracle Cloud Identifier. And that's it. And nobody treats that as sensitive. I imagine you can probably find lots of OCIDs right now on GitHub in people's scripts and things like that. Probably in Terraform scripts and things like that. So this was just a jaw-dropping vulnerability. Of course, by the time we found out about it, it was already fixed because it was found by somebody at Wiz. And I guess that's the only upside of these cloud vulnerabilities is they only have to fix it once, and it's fixed for all customers all at once. Right. So there's no kind of long tail of, somebody hasn't patched something, because it's all on their side of the responsibility model, the shared responsibility. But it's still horrible. Like, it's astounding that they would make a mistake that basic, that there would be no access control, no tenancy separation between storage on their cloud.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that jumps out at me is how egregious an error like this is. Right, this type of vulnerability is a huge, huge problem. And when we think about the severity of the impact, I think maybe 4 customers that are Oracle customers might be impacted because that's all they have. It's one of those situations where if a tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it, did it really fall? Who cares? It's Oracle. But yes, when we go back to the actual pain of the vuln, it's a horrible vuln.
The last numbers I've seen shows them with more revenue from Oracle Cloud than Google from Google's cloud.
Get out of Dodge. I stand completely corrected.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, we have Oracle Cloud compatibility in our product where I work, where I'm head of product, and like we're early stage in our product, and we already have Oracle support built in there. So yeah, we have customers using Oracle.
Wow.
Yep.
On the flip side, economies of scale. Fix it once, fix it for everyone.
Yeah, but you got to be able to trust. All 6 of their clients.
No, I'm kidding. Sorry, Tyler. I had
She's a green flag person, folks. Green flags.
You got to be able. Yeah. Thank you for the positive side. Yeah, but yeah, you got to be able to trust your cloud service provider. And Microsoft has had a really bad year too. They've had some really bad cross-tenancy mistakes, but and some almost as bad as this. There was one with databases where you could access any other customer's database, but it was a little bit harder to, like you had to jump through some hoops to do it, and even then you were only exposed to like a limited number of other customers using Azure, and this was just everybody. This was just wide open, like finding an open file share with everybody.
You get an OCI. You get an OCI. Everybody gets an OCI.
Yep. Yeah. I wonder how they found this. I imagine maybe they found it accidentally and like just mounted somebody else's thing. I haven't read through the whole thing, but yeah, I'm glad we have CSPMs, cloud security companies like Wiz and Orca, and who's the other one? Finding this kind of stuff. There's SysDig. There's where's my unicorn list? They're all on there. Lacework is another one. But yeah, they all have good research teams, and I'm glad that they're keeping the big cloud service providers honest. And finding these bugs.
Yep, lots of them coming out. Lots of cloud security people are focused on breaking the fundamental infrastructure. So I think you're going to continue to see more of them across all clouds, not just Oracle or Google or Azure, across all of them.
Yep. All right, and with that, I think we'll close up shop for the day. Until next week. Thanks so much, Tyler and Katie, for joining me today.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Letting each other talk and giving each other opportunities, being respectful of each other's.
I'm
pretty
extremely
sure I talked
respectful
about Tyler
of
a
KT.
few billion times today. Sorry.
All right. And a big thanks to everyone watching or listening to this week's episode of Enterprise Security Weekly. Hope you enjoyed it today. A little bit different format. If you want to hear more of that coverage like we did with Uber's hack today, let us know. For now, we'll see you next week.